Good evening, Who Dat Nation, and a happy Wednesday to our Bayou Blitz family. Happy All Saints Day. Happy New Orleans Saints birthday. Happy belated Halloween. I hope everybody is doing very well out there. I am your one of your befuddled co-hosts for your Bayou Blitz podcast. And I say that because I threw the incomplete pass today and I didn't distribute the link through any of the Facebook groups or Twitter. So we're going to see how many of our loyal fans actually have us tagged and reminders, weekly reminders on, to jump in and join the show. But if you are on with us live, I want to thank you for joining us. And again, I hope everybody had a great Halloween, great trick or treat. I suppose we're kicking off to the cold holidays now. But on that note, I'd like to pass it over to my friend and co-host, Brendan Boylan. Brendan, happy All Saints Day.
Yeah, happy Saints birthday. I'm sure it's cold where you are because it's cold where I am. Yeah.
29 degrees right now.
Okay, perfect. So let's see, because I know what it was while I was in the office today. It's a little warmer. It's 40, but it was about that throughout the day. So to wake up, and we were literally in the 80s yesterday, to wake up and be like, what is going on? But I digress. It is cold in your neck of the woods. It's cold in my neck of the woods. It's cold in a lot of your guys' neck of the woods. What wasn't cold was the New Orleans Saints offense on Sunday for the first time in almost feels like forever. And with that, I want to bring in a friend of both of ours, Alan Ulrich, joining us. You guys know him from Tuesday nights. You probably were with him last night. Alan, how you doing?
All right, how are you guys?
Good.
Can you hear me okay?
A little bit of an echo, but yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you well, Alan.
All right, I'm using my iPad, so it's a little bit trickier than what I'm used to at my laptop. No, we actually did not do the show last night, Brendan, because of Halloween. I know Bob's got a young one, and I knew a lot of people were going to be out trick-or-treating instead of doing a show, so we weren't able to do a show last night.
Well, they're doubling down and getting you here today. So let's talk a little bit, about what was a hot New Orleans Saints offense on Sunday. Again, first time we've seen this type of offense in what feels like forever. Certainly the first time in the Derek Carr era. For you, what went well for New Orleans? What were some things offensively that really caught your eye in this one?
They attacked the middle, which they hadn't been doing all season. I saw Kamara in option route for the first time in I don't know how long. They used Taysom Hill in the red zone, something that they only did once against Jacksonville, and they hardly did the first 5 games all season. So it was almost like Carmichael had been seeing all the commentary on social media and said, you know what? The hell with it. I'm going to do everything you guys have been complaining about. That includes you, JT O'Sullivan, former Saints backup quarterback. That includes you, Chase Daniel, former Saints backup quarterback, breaking down film. I'm going to do all these things that you say we need to do. And we were all right. I mean, the offense looked the way this offense is supposed to look and what we expected to see out of this team.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was here on, I guess, last Thursday. Did we move the moons and the stars last week, Bob? I think
remember. We did. We do it so often now with our Time Stone and Infinity Gauntlet that I lose track of how often we do it.
Exactly. I don't know if it was here or on PSF, but I specifically said Kamara Texas route. And so when the first touchdown happened, I wanted to text you, Bob, and go, see what happens when they listen?
Look, and you and I have been calling for the middle of the field all season. Alan and I have been calling for the middle of the field all season. It's not like they don't have the weapons to do it. Alan and you, Brendan, both pointed out Kamara on the option routes, Michael Thomas on the slant routes. Jawan Johnson, now that he's back again, he didn't get a lot of action, but when they threw to him, it was down the middle of the field. And they they use their athletes on the perimeter. They used Taysom Hill on the perimeter. They ran Alvin Kamara off tackle, and of course they attacked with Rashid Shaheed down down the field. But also on not seam routes, but down the hash marks to kind of draw those safeties out. So again, you're attacking down the middle ish of the field. Even though you're doing deep. Going deep. And I thought, play calling was it was a balanced game plan all afternoon. Let's call a spade a spade. Indianapolis doesn't exactly have a great defense, but having said that, I mean, the Saints 511 yards. That's the most they've had in 46 games since that Christmas Day drubbing of Minnesota. They threw for their most passing yards of the season. They ran for their most rushing yards of the season. They went either 4 of 5 or 5 of 5 in the red zone. You can't ask for any better performance. Now, the big question is, can you sustain it? Can you show any kind of consistency moving forward? This might not be it probably isn't a 500-yard a week offense, but you give them 420 yards a week, and punch it into the red zone at least 3 out of every 4 or 5 opportunities. You're going to win a lot of football games.
One of the interesting things you just said, Bob, it's not a 500-yard offense. They have gotten over 400 yards 3 consecutive weeks for the first time since I think it was weeks 9 through 12 in 2018. And that was games like Buffalo, Cincinnati, Los Angeles Rams. Those were all, big offensive shows by this team. So, they can get the yardage, but like you said, it's about scoring in the red zone. It's about being efficient on third down. I think they were 50% this time around instead of like 3 for 11, which is what they were against Jacksonville. Those are the keys to me for this offense to put up points and to put teams away.
Yeah, and let's talk about another first too. And I know we're all going to talk about him at some point anyway. Derek Carr, 3 straight 300-yard games. Now, every Saints fan in the world knows the last quarterback to have done it, Drew Brees, right? So I'm like, okay, Brees probably did it. He was at the tail end of his career in 19 and 20. So I'm thinking he probably did it in 2018. Nope. 2017. Nope. Drew Brees has thrown for 3 and 4 consecutive 300-yard games, but even he hasn't done it since midway through 2015. So that's the kind of rarefied air we're talking with Derek Carr. And the most important thing, the previous 2 300-yard outings, he threw 105 passes to get it. He only threw 27 or 28 times on Sunday. So we saw a more efficient Derek Carr. We saw a more decisive Derek Carr. And again, as all 3 of us pointed out, he spread the ball around. I think he hit 8 or 9 different targets. He attacked with equally efficient accuracy, deep, intermediate, and short. Got the ball out of his hands, moved away from pressure. This is by far the best game we've seen out of Derek Carr.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And, we'll get to this later, but, there were points he left on the field.
Yeah.
The most obvious one is Chris Olave, losing the ball, I guess, in the lights. I'm not sure what it was, but it hit him in the face. And that's a walk-in touchdown. He was wide open. So, as good as they were, they can be better. And that's a positive to me, because if you can hang 38 points, I don't care who you are. The Colts are a bad team, but they're not an awful team. It's not like the team they're going to be facing this weekend with the Bears. But, they did this against a quality defense. And, Brendan, I don't know. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but, we were bashing Carmichael last week. How would you like to be a Colts fan this weekend or this week, looking at Jonathan Taylor getting something like 90 yards or 89 yards in the first half, and then in the second half, you take him basically out of the ball game? He finished with 95 yards. I think he had 9 carries in the first half, and I think he only had 4 carries or 3 carries the rest of the ball game.
Yep.
As good as the Saints were, the Colts kind of beat themselves too by doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. The big storyline when it came to Jonathan Taylor was trying to ease the workload back. And they didn't have to because of how well Moss had been playing. And Moss had been playing pretty well for my fantasy team too. But it was one of those situations where, yes, you're getting one of the best running backs in the game back, but it didn't feel like a necessity to work him back. But it was weird to see the dominance he had and then go, you know what, we're gonna trust Moss here to make it happen. And yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right in what you said. Like we've been bashing Carmichael. People in the chat have been bashing Carmichael. If you're a Colts fan, you're bashing your play caller this week because at the end of the day, I don't know if I'd go as far as saying losing the game, but you lost a lot of momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Ball control, it was going to be important in a game like this as well. And when you don't utilize a guy who runs extremely well between the tackles, time of possession is going to get away from you as well, even though I believe they won time of possession in the game. So yeah, no, definitely a good point there. Before we continue too far about the offense, Bob mentioned Rashid Shaheed, and Bob and I talked a lot the last few weeks about the lack of touches for Rashid Shaheed. And it's not like this was a game where Shaheed went out and had 8 receptions, right? Like he had that classic, was it Monday night game or Thanksgiving game for Randy Moss where it was like 3 catches for 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like it was one of those stat lines with 3 catches, 150 plus, and a score. You're not going to get that every week. And you cannot expect Rashid to average 50 something yards per catch every week. But how nice was it to see the Saints finally get one of the most electric players on the field involved and hit a few times, Bob?
Oh, I mean, it was beautiful. I think Rashid Shaheed is a quiet difference maker for this offense. And, like you said, when you have Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill, Rashid Shaheed is never going to, get 10, 12, 15 touches in a game. But you have to give him quality touches. And I just don't mean, the occasional deep ball into double and triple coverage. You have to pick your shots, but you have to know anyway, if you're the offensive coordinator going into a game, look, this guy is electric. I have to get him at least three or four quality touches. And, that's what they did. It feels like, and it's felt this way since week 1, actually. It feels like Rashid and Derek Carr have a little bit of a chemistry here. At least where in big moments, because we saw it the first 2 or 3 ball games. Derek said to Rashid, and at least according to Derek, that he would tell Rashid in a big moment, look, just go deep, just run. I will get you the football. That's the kind of confidence that you like to hear a quarterback have in your guy. And I think that's the kind of playmaking ability that Rashid brings to this offense. I'd still like to see him get more touches in a game, average 5, 6, 7 touches a game, and good things will happen. But when you get the kind of production that you got, and it wasn't only just the 3 catches against Indianapolis, he averaged about 13 or 14 yards per punt return too. So he kept his offense out of a deep hole. I would like to see Rashid Shaheed get even more involved going forward.
Well, the big thing, and this goes back to, again, Carmichael kind of listening to what the fans were complaining about. You guys have all seen the sound bites with Sean Payton when he's been mic'd up. And you hear him talking to Drew. This is the matchup we wanted. This is the look we wanted. Well, the Colts were missing one of their top cornerbacks, and they had their special teams guy. Essentially, they're JT Gray, but not as good. Think more like Justin Hardy out there playing corner. And Carmichael in this offense isolated him.
Yeah.
They put Shaheed on him. They put Thomas on him. and Carr threw in his direction. It was number 38. I don't even know his name. I feel like Bill Parcells. He's just a player, and he's a number. But yeah, they went at him, I think, 9 times for 150 something yards and a score. And that's what we wanted to see out of this offense, because you don't just run formations and I don't give a damn what the defense is doing or what their coverage is. We're going to run these plays. This time they acted like they really game planned for the Colts defense and said, okay, this is their weakness. This is their weakness. Their linebackers hurt, so we're going to put Kamara against him. You saw all the matchups, and this is, as Saints fans, this is what we've been used to with Sean Payton for 16, 17 years, seeing this. So that's the other reason why people were like, man, this offense is stale. This offense is broken. It's old. It's not. We are not seeing it executed the way it should be. And when it is, Shaheed has a great game. Thomas has a good game, despite Thomas really being laid up with a stomach virus.
Yeah.
I think, one thing as well was utilizing the backfield the way it should be. And Bob and I have the ongoing joke that when you talk about the Saints backfield, Taysom Hill has to be involved as well. Because my joke, what is Taysom Hill? Every year in, we don't know. One year he's a quarterback. One year he's a tight end. This year he's whatever he's listed at. I don't know. The stat goes, last year the Saints were undefeated when Hill carried the ball at least 9 times, and I know that Nick Underhill and his group kind of took that number and they ran with it a little bit further, and the Saints are like 14-1 or something when Hill has so many rushes in a game. A little upset. I want a little credit for that, Bob. Do you think I deserve a little bit of credit?
Get some too, yeah.
Like a little bit of credit for coming up with that stat. They just decided to enhance it a little bit. No disrespect to those guys. Those guys do great work, but Taysom was the Saints' leading rusher this week. Kamara, you look at the statistics, you look at the numbers, and 3.5 yards a carry, but the Saints didn't stray away from running the football. I know Jamal Williams didn't get a whole lot of rushes. I think he ended with 6 carries for 30 yards. But, man, that's what I want to see out of Jamal Williams. He had a couple big first downs and expressed some of that fun-loving energy that people up in Detroit loved about him. But that's the key here is the Saints have so many offensive weapons. It's a good problem, right? The more toys you have, the better. But this is the first time we really saw it executed. To your point, Alan, like every minute detail was worked out for this offense to function. All the gears were oiled, and it was like a well-oiled machine. For the first time, the offensive line held up pretty well, even though they're still missing, Hurst on the left side. It just seemed like and again, not a great defense. I get it. But it was like a breath of fresh air to watch this team, offensively at least, play the way that they did. They have a favorable matchup again next week. Let's go ahead and look at the upcoming schedule. While we have it, I want to get to the defense as well in this game, which we might be having a little bit of a different conversation about the defense than we did the offense. But the next 4, let's just say 5 weeks for the Saints are Chicago, Minnesota, bye week, Atlanta, Detroit, Carolina. I look at that schedule and, Chicago is a mess. They've been a mess since week 1. I think you could really tell the state of a football team when you have your receivers coming out and saying they're not using me properly after 1 week. I think that's a telltale sign of where you are at as a franchise. Yeah. Chicago fans must be going through it too, because like players only meeting for the Chicago Bulls after 1 game as well. Not a good look, Chicago. You guys are having a lot of players only meetings between your 2 franchises. The Vikings, who really knows with Minnesota, right? You don't know if you're going to get Justin Jefferson back for the New Orleans game. I think it's the first game he's eligible to be able to come back.
Yes.
Kirk Cousins with the Achilles tear. You don't really know what Minnesota is because you're not just missing potentially your number one receiver, but you're also missing a guy who I think gets a lot of crap for being like a top 10 quarterback in the league. He's above the Andy Dalton line. If you ask me, I think Cousins is a good quarterback. I think they're certainly going to miss him. And then you get the Falcons for the first time this year. We don't know about the Falcons. They made a quarterback change today, right? Is Heineke going to save their season? I don't know. And then Detroit, not the same Detroit team as we've seen in years past, a really good football team. And then you get Carolina where you beat them once earlier this year and you weren't playing your best. They certainly weren't playing their best. But you look at those next five and you go, if you're a hopeful person like myself, you look at that and go, the Saints could go 4-1 here. Detroit being the one team that might give you a little bit of concern, and obviously NFC South matchups you never know. But 3-2, 4-1, very plausible here. Do you think, going all the way back to what Bob said, do you think the offense is actually going to keep it up, Alan?
Well, that's hard to say because if you think about last year, I think it was almost a year yesterday. Might have been the 30th, but that was when they shut out the Raiders. And everyone thought the offense had kind of turned the corner. And the wheels came off after that.
Yeah.
You need to see consistency out of this team. We shut out the Patriots 3 weeks ago. And then you had two terrible games against the Texans and the Jaguars, both teams that were very beatable. I need to see what this team looks like against Chicago. If they go out and beat Chicago like a drum, like they should, then you can sit there and say, maybe they can make a run because the rest of the teams, you take Detroit out of the equation, but the rest of the teams that are on this schedule are very beatable. None of them have winning records. None of them are. Maybe Minnesota is a playoff contender. Fringe, if I know they just traded for Dobbs from the Cardinals, but how does that fit in? Does Justin Jefferson come back? What do they do with that? But that's the only really fringe playoff team outside of the teams you're competing against in the NFC South that you have left on the schedule, Minnesota and Detroit, and that's it. So my thing is this offense has to show consistency. We have to continue to see great play calling, good scheming, and Carr connecting with his receivers. I think if those three things happen, then you can make a run and you probably win the NFC South and you're the fourth seed or going into the playoffs.
I agree with everything both of you just said, but I'm going to counter with this. They've lost to the Green Bay Packers. They've lost to the Houston Texans. They lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And to me that's almost a drop the mic statement, but I'm not going to drop the mic. They absolutely have to show more consistency on offense. I would like, and I do feel that this could potentially be the case. The way that they performed in Indianapolis, it feels like the type of moment that if you have a good season, you look back on and you say, that was the game that our season turned around. That was when we realized how good we could be. And, you went on a winning streak. But like you said, Alan, we saw the same kind, we said the same kind of thing when they drubbed the Vegas Raiders last year. And then everything just unraveled. I'd like to think that this team is better than that. But if you'd have told me at the beginning of the year that they were going to lose to the Packers, the Buccaneers, and the Texans, I'd have said, no way in hell. And almost lose to the Titans and almost lose to they didn't really almost lose to the Panthers, but you guys get what I'm saying. So the first thing that they're going to have to do is show themselves that they could be a consistent winner. Because I do not believe that this team has put together any more than a 3-game winning streak in the last 3 seasons, since way back in 2020. So they're going to at least have to show us and themselves that they can do that.
Yeah, I don't remember if they had a 3-game winning streak to end the season last year or not. I know they beat Cleveland. I know they beat Philadelphia. But I don't remember if they lost, if the Carolina loss would have been number 3 or not.
Yeah, I don't even.
Yeah, I don't have the schedule in front of me, but regardless, they need to go into their bye on a winning streak. You need to take care of these 2 teams, Minnesota especially. Atlanta's always, a game will be up for, but you need to take care of Chicago. You need to finish off Minnesota. Because that's your sign that you're making that move. They didn't do any trades. There's a story out there that they were really close to getting Hunter Renfrow, and a lot of people were like, "Man, why are they doing that?" We just saw our top 3 receivers, but John Sigler pointed out that next year the only receivers under contract are Chris Olave and A.T. Perry.
Yeah.
Now, Rashid Shaheed's a restricted free agent. And they probably work out a deal based on the way Mike Thomas is talking. They probably work out a deal to bring Thomas back. I think this is a prove-it deal, and I think they probably would like to keep Thomas. But regardless, that's probably why you bring a Hunter Renfrow around.
Sure.
Because you would want a 4th receiver and a guy who's under contract, just in case the worst thing could happens. Rashid Shaheed's an exclusive rights free agent, everybody, so he's not going anywhere. There's no matching. There's nothing like that. He's exclusive rights right now. So it's just, this is his rookie contract as an undrafted free agent expiring.
Yeah, but I mean, your point is still very valid. And as all 3 of us know, Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed are a different type of receiver than what Michael Thomas is. And we saw this offense struggle whenever Michael Thomas had been out the last 2 or 3 years because they lacked that physical presence, and that's not the type of physical presence that Olave or Rashid can give you. So. Getting a guy like Hunter Renfrow or getting a physical guy that could work the intermediate areas, I could see why they kicked the tires on that, but I also highly doubt they offered anything significant, hence why the deal never took place.
No, he's going to be a free agent. They're going to cut him at the end of the year, and he'll be a free agent, probably will sign with the Saints next year.
Let's talk about the defense and then get back to the non-deadline moves and get a little bit of your guys' thoughts on that. But the defense in this game, I felt, had some moments where they looked good. Lots of moments where they didn't. A few opportunities to slam home that final nail in the coffin late in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't do it. They didn't make Gardner Minshew look like a Pro Bowl quarterback, but Gardner Minshew had his moments as well. Bob, you have said for the last 2 weeks you feel like this is a defense that has regressed instead of progressed.
Mm-hmm.
Did they make your statement true for the 3rd consecutive week against Indianapolis?
Yeah, they did. I won't lie. I'm starting to have legitimate concerns about this defense, and it starts with the lack of pass rush. Now we did see them get, it put some heat on Minshew, through the last quarter and a half of the game, specifically from Carl Granderson and Cam Jordan. But they're still having a hard time finishing plays, and they're not, the defense as a whole, they're not starting off games very well. And whether or not your offense is playing well, you don't need your defense to put your team in a hole. Now when the defense has done that against Jacksonville and against Houston with poor offensive performances, that just made a 10 or a 14-point deficit look like the Grand Canyon. But you don't want to see the offense start trending one direction and the defense start trending another, and that's what I feel like I'm seeing here. I hope that I'm overblowing it, but I'm very concerned about the pass rush. I'm very concerned about the run defense on the edges. Teams aren't gashing them up the middle and on inside like they were last year, but they're getting a lot of rushing yards off of the edge. They're able to push Granderson off the ball, and we know Granderson is a little lighter weight, not the power player that Cam Jordan is, but they're able to push Granderson off the ball. Tyrann Mathieu plays the run very poor, as far as positioning goes. And Jordan Howden, I know the Saints love Jordan Howden, and I could see why. Howden has a lot of exciting traits, but there's a significant drop off when you have to play Jordan Howden over Marcus May, because Marcus May plays the run very, very well, and I think that's what the difference is. In that secondary, as far as tackling and positioning. Coverage-wise, Adebo played out of his mind against Indianapolis. Lattimore was still a little up and down, but I mean, Marshawn's going to be Marshawn. You know what you're going to get from him. Same with Alontae Taylor. But like I said, the lack of consistent pass rush, will leave any secondary, no matter how good they are, out to dry. So. I'm not saying that this defense is going to bottom out over the second half of the season, but they have a lot of major question marks. At least in my mind, they do.
I thought that the Colts kind of took a page out of what Jacksonville and to a certain extent the Texans had done. One, to get rid of it. They weren't letting Minshew hold the ball very long. So they were throwing it quick shots outside, quick shots just beyond the linebackers and in front of the corners. And it took the Saints a little while to adjust to that, mainly because they were getting so gashed by the run.
Mm-hmm.
I am concerned a little bit about the pass rush, but I also realize if a quarterback's getting rid of the ball in 2 seconds, 2.2, 2.5 seconds, unless you have garbage for left tackles and right tackles that are just turnstiles, most defensive linemen can't get to the quarterback in time.
You're right.
That said, put your hands up, knock balls down, press the coverage, get these guys behind in the down and distance, because if you watched this game unfold, the minute the minute Indianapolis had a holding call or a penalty or an incompletion, and it was 2nd and long, 3rd and long, the pass rush suddenly got a little bit better.
Yeah.
And they were putting the pressure on them. So I think that's probably the biggest weakness. And that goes to probably the next topic that Brendan would want to talk about, the penalties. Penalties kept this game closer than it really should have been. I still think the Brzee call was absurd, ridiculous. Yeah. He did not cover the center. His shoulder pad might have been even with the helmet from a certain angle, but somebody, and this is what I was reading on Twitter, and I think there's some truth to this. I think someone called the officials or told the officials based on film study, hey, watch number 90 when he lines up. He's going to shade the center, not cover him. So that's covering the center, throw the flag. Because when they showed the replay, I was like, really? That's a penalty? He's not directly over the center, which is what that rule is supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So, and it made the Saints kind of change their coverage a little bit on kicks. But that penalty gave them a touchdown. And that's where I was going with this. There were several other times where in key moments in the game, they committed a defensive penalty, and it gave the Colts extra life and allowed them to go down the field. That hurt your defense too. That so that, and it's not effort penalties; it's penalties, because I can accept those.
Mm-hmm.
It's false starts, it's offsides, it's penalties that you're not focused, you're not paying attention, you're not disciplined, and that bothered me. And I think that concerns me more about this defense than anything else, because there are a lot of veterans out there. It's not like we're playing a bunch of rookies. If Brzee commits a penalty, if Howden commits a penalty, okay, it's a rookie mistake, but it's veterans committing these penalties.
Yeah, and in all honesty, I wasn't aware of where the Saints ranked in penalties until the game.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob makes a good point about tracking numbers like that until about week 8, because honestly, until you get about halfway through the year, the sample size isn't large enough to look at a couple different things, and penalties is up there as well, because you have a game with a ton of penalties, you can have the next game with no penalties, and they kind of cancel each other. Anyway, I didn't realize how bad the Saints were in that category. And it continued. And like you said, Alan, it'd be a completely different story if you had a young Saints team. Be a completely different story if you had a team like, what was it, 2015 had to have led the league in penalties. I know they led the league in personal foul penalties.
Yeah.
But it'd be different when you're replacing a majority of your team like they did in 15. It was a lot of new faces, a lot of this, a lot of that. You can have your excuses. But how much of this is on coaching for penalties? Or is it truly boneheaded mistakes? Bob shaking his head at the coaching thing. I had to throw it out there, Bob, because, these people are ready to take the head of just about any coach on this staff. So, Bob, tell them why they should not take and ask for the heads of coaches, at least in this instance, when it comes to the Saints leading the league in penalty yardage.
Now, listen, and I'm usually the first one to load both barrels when it comes to what I feel is inept or poor coaching. But the type of penalties that this team is committing, and that Alan alluded to, they are lazy penalties. They are, you should have damn well knew better penalties. And coaches can't fix stupid. Just like parents can't fix stupid. Media to fans, we can't fix stupid. I'm referring to a few of you specifically that aren't that I know aren't in the chat. But those type of people. Those type of people are too illiterate to read the tag to join the to join the cat. Yeah, I've had a week, gentlemen. Anyway. Anyway, no, it's in this instance, it's absolutely not coaching. All the false start penalties by the offensive line, that's not coaching. That's, you guys should have damn well knew better on this play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a sequence I'm thinking of, and it's right before the big Shaheed completion. It was, I think, on second. It was first down, and they ran number 21, the kid from Detroit, Jamal Williams. He picked up 4 yards, so it's now 2nd and 6. False start penalty, now 2nd and 11. You just wiped out that run. False start penalty again. Now it's 2nd and 15.
Yep.
16. You're making it that much harder on your offense, and you're trying to close out the game. And the goal is, we're going to run the ball, make them burn their timeouts. I know they get a timeout and 2-minute warning, but make them burn their timeouts. So if we don't get the first down, we can punt it, pin them deep, and try and keep them from getting a big play, make them waste time. We were extremely fortunate that number 38 was out there and Carr hit that pass to close, because that closed out the game. But those kind of penalties could have been the difference between winning that ball game and losing it, despite having, at that point, 400 and something yards of offense, and looking like a good team. That entire sequence could have flipped the entire game and cost you that ball game. And yes, it is. It's on the players. Now, technique penalties, holding penalties, that kind of stuff, you can kind of say the coaches because, hey, why, what are you teaching these guys that they're getting caught holding? But there's John. I blame Roger Goodell. I blame Roger Goodell for everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, false starts, you're not focused. You're not paying attention. You're kind of daydreaming, and suddenly you go, oh, I got to go, or two men in motion at the same time. Really? That's focus. That's on the player.
Right.
Those are the kind of things I blame the players.
Yeah, or not, not turning your head, in coverage, and drawing an interference penalty. That's the kind of stuff you're taught in Pee Wee football. So, maybe you blame their Pee Wee coaches. I don't know, but again, those kind of things are on the player. There's a lot to blame this entire coaching staff for. Those kind of mistakes, penalties, and errors on the player, 100%.
Yeah, if you get put in a position where you shouldn't be, like if you have, I don't know, you have or a linebacker, let's say Pete Warner, one-on-one with their fastest receiver, and he's got to commit pass interference because he's going to give up a touchdown. That's on coaching. That's a bad
which we saw Warner on Josh Downs at one point. I think Josh scored or got a big play out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of thing's on coaching. You're right.
Right. But, there's a lot of things that the players just are not dialed in and not focused on. And the players are taking ownership of it at least. Chris Olave today came out, I heard in the interviews, talking about how he's in a little bit of a slump.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a lot of things that are affecting him right now. I don't know if it's personal issues. I don't know what it is. But he's not completely focused, and he is well aware of how it looks to the fans. And I give him credit for at least standing up and recognizing that, as opposed to saying, oh, no, it's all good. It's all good. I'll be good. No, because there were some plays where he left yardage on the field. There were some plays where he obviously left a touchdown on the field. And fans have been noticing this for the past 3 or 4 weeks. Then he had the speeding ticket too. So the players do have to take some ownership of the issues they've had on the team.
Let's look ahead to Chicago just a little bit in the last about 15 minutes of the show. I said it before, Chicago's a mess, and I think that's the nice way of putting it.
The running back coach just resigned today, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you start having people resign, people demanding trades early in a season, what looked to be your franchise quarterback all of a sudden doesn't look like a starting quarterback at times. There's a lot of issues going on. Now, if you're a Chicago fan and you're in this for podcast for whatever reason, watching and listening right now, the bright side is Carolina's been so bad, you're probably going to get the number 1 pick. You guys have been so bad, you might get the number 1 and number 2 pick. So maybe there's some hope. I want to get this off my chest first before anybody else goes into this, and I'm going to get some looks from you guys. I'm sure I'm going to get some comments from the chat. I still believe that Justin Fields can be a good NFL quarterback. I just don't think he has any support or any pieces around him. DJ Moore, really talented guy. Offensive line, there's not really one. Competence in play calling, there's not really any. I think Fields and I bet Chicago will agree with me here if they end up with the number 1 pick. It's time to move on. It's going to be better for Chicago to potentially go get Caleb Williams and just call it a day. It's going to be better for Justin Fields to go find a greener pasture elsewhere. With that said, the Saints have struggled against athletic quarterbacks, Bob. We've talked about that a lot over the years. Justin Fields, an athletic quarterback. What are some problems the Saints could face against the Chicago Bears offense? And is this a game where the defense could certainly bounce back, at least on paper?
Well, they won't have to. They won't have to worry about facing the mobility of Justin Fields because the Chicago coaching staff has already named Tyson Bagent their quarterback for this week. Saying that Fields isn't ready. So not only will Chicago be without their running back coach, who, as you pointed out, just resigned, they're without their top 2 rushers. Khalil Herbert on injured reserve. Justin Fields out yet again. So the free agent rookie from Shepherd University, which I'll be honest with you, I've never even heard of. He'll get his 3rd straight start. Donta Freeman, Rashawn Johnson. The Saints have seen these Donta Freeman before. They know he's a bruising running back. Rashawn Johnson, a real athletic guy from Texas. I loved him coming out of the draft. I would have liked to see the Saints maybe invest. Rashawn was on my list of running backs, that included Tajay Spears, the kid from Illinois. I forget his name off the top of my head. And obviously Kendre Miller, who I had. I'll pat myself on the back again. I had ultimately had them mocked to anyway. He's the type of athletic guy that has given the Saints problems on the edge in the last a couple of weeks. So, watch for Chicago. They're going to obviously want to establish the run. Rashawn Johnson is that type of athletic guy that has given the Saints problems. The New Orleans is very familiar with DJ Moore, who has had some very, very good games against New Orleans, defensive backs. So you have to be careful of that too. Not a lot has been made of it, but the Saints have had a little bit of problems with tight ends this year. Good receiving tight ends, and the Bears have a decent one in Cole Kmet. So again, and I'm not trying to hype up Chicago into anything they're not. This is a bad football team, but these are some ways that the Bears could give the Saints defense some problems. This needs to be a get right game for the New Orleans defense first and foremost.
Yeah, you got you don't have a very mobile quarterback compared to Justin Fields in the Bears backup. I watched a little bit of that Chargers Bears game, and the Chargers were pretty much having their way with the Bears. To me, they're going to try and establish the run. I think this Saints defense will be well aware of that, and will probably have 8 or 9 in the box to take away the run, daring the quarterback to beat them. And I think this is the kind of game where they can get, because the Bears' offensive line is not very good at all. So I think this is the kind of game that a Cam Jordan can suddenly make an impact and get the sacks that people have not seen out of him. Then Carl Granderson probably has a good game. I think Brian Brzee has a good shot of having a good game this week. So I think this is a game where the Saints front 4 matches up extremely well against the Bears, just because the Bears' weakness is a lot of the Saints' strengths. Mm-hmm. And not facing a Justin Fields who can reset and move in the pocket and kind of extend plays and ad lib up there so coverages break down. Because a DJ Moore is going to probably match up against Marshawn Lattimore. Paulson Adebo played extremely well. He'll match up against whoever the number 2 receiver for the Bears is. I don't even know, honestly.
Darnell Mooney.
Mooney. Okay, number 11. Yeah. Okay, so he, I think Adebo matches up well with him. I think you probably have a good shot with, with Taylor playing the run more so than covering. He probably can handle the tight end a bit. The key is the Saints pass rush has to get to this quarterback, knock passes down, get them in the 2nd and 3rd and longs. And once they do that, I think the Bears offense just cannot get out of that kind of hole. Mm-hmm. So to me, this is really, I think the Saints, this is a good get well game for the Saints defense compared to what they played last week, and they're at home. It's the offense I'm concerned about because this Bears defense is terrible. And this is a team that this offense should tear apart if it plays at its level.
And that's a great segue. The one thing that this Bears team does well is stop the run. At least statistically. I mean, they're third in the league, first in yards per carry average. But that statistic is a little bit misleading because Chicago is just so bad against the pass that the teams don't go into the game with a run heavy game plan early. They're just running late, to kind of run out the clock after they have a 2-3 score lead. Chicago is 30th against the pass. 31st in amount, and touchdown throws given up, and dead last in sacks. They only have 10 sacks this year. And that surprised me when I looked it up because they have DeMarcus Walker on one edge and Yannick Ngakoue on the other edge. So I expected the sack numbers to be better. Now the Bears did shock the hell out of me this week when they pulled off a trade with Washington to get in Montez Sweat. Their outstanding defensive end, and I expect Montez to definitely play at the very least obvious pass rush downs. So that'll be a test for not only Ryan Ramczyk, but also expect to see Andrus Peat suit up again at left tackle in place of Trevor Penning. Because Pete's played okay there, better run for the run against the pass. But yeah, I mean, to your point, Alan, the Bears pass defense is just horrid. They've given up three 300-yard passers and one of 298 yards. So this looks on paper to be a game where Derek Carr can shred the Chicago Bears. But as all three of us said at the beginning of the show, can the Saints do it consistently? The Saints' biggest test is not going to be the Chicago Bears defense. It's going to be themselves and whether they can prove to not only us but them internally. But I'll tell you what, again, on paper, this is a great game. Looks like a great game to get your team on a roll.
Absolutely. Brendan, you getting ready to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. I think this is a game where I feel that it's not the New Orleans Saints against the Chicago Bears. It's the New Orleans Saints against the New Orleans Saints.
Mm-hmm.
Can they get out of their own way? And we've all of us have talked about this all year on our own shows, when we've guested on other shows. And it's that, well, I guess I'll start defensively, is that the defense had such a strong start to the season statistically. I still think the defense is good, but I don't think the defense is as great as many people thought they were going to be. And we've used the term on paper a whole lot. On paper,
Mm-hmm.
or my favorite, in Madden, like if you're talking about Madden terms, like the Saints should do this and the Saints should, have a better overall rating than this team. But we've said that a lot.
Yeah, I think the issue, the reason why the defense looks so good in the beginning is, number one, with Ryan Tannehill, you're facing a statue essentially in the pocket. So it was and the Titans had a rebuilt offensive line. So it was very easy to collapse the pocket on Tannehill and he'll make the bad throws. And in week 2, you're playing against Carolina. It's the first home start for Bryce Young, inexperienced quarterback. He would hold on to the ball, waiting for plays to develop. So it made it easy for the Saints defense because he's not running around. He's not extending plays because he's got so much chaos in his mind trying to run this offense in week 2, no less. And on a Monday night, that the moment was almost too big for him at that time. That's funny saying that from a rookie, number 1 overall pick coming from Alabama, but still the NFL, Monday Night Football, the speed of the game, he's not up to that yet. I think he's playing better now than he was then, but still, so the defense kind of got 2 easy starts out of the box. And then they go and face Jordan Love and the Packers. And the wheels seem to come off when Carr got hurt. Even defensively, they started making a lot of mistakes that we've been talking about. So, and then since that point, to kind of counteract the Saints pass rush, is getting rid of the ball quick. We're gonna do quick sets, quick drops, get rid of this ball. We're not gonna let our quarterback sit and hold it. So it's the adjustment. Okay, this is what teams are doing now. How do you take that away? And that's what we need to see this week. How do they adjust to this now? We've seen 3 weeks in a row where guys are getting rid of the ball quick. If you make that adjustment instead of the second half, you do it like maybe the second possession of the game, and you take all that away, I think that's when the defense will look better than just being the defense we expected to be on paper.
And John said it would be nice to see Cam Jordan get home a few times. I agree.
Yeah.
Like we were saying, on paper, the Saints should beat this team fairly easily. And with a rookie quarterback and listen, I pride myself on small schools. You guys know this. I went to a small school. Where is Shepherd?
It's in West Virginia, I think, but that's the most you'll get out of me.
Like I'm looking it up right now. Public university in West Virginia. How about that? Way to go. University enrolled 3,274 students in the fall of 2023.
I had that
small
in
school.
my graduating class.
I was going to say, I come from a school that was smaller, so small school. Definitely root for small school kids like that, but lights are big, and I know this is going to be his third consecutive start.
Yeah,
lights are big. Crowd noise is unreal in the Superdome. That's going to be a hurdle for a rookie quarterback at any level, let alone a rookie quarterback from such a small school. Like I said, the Saints just have to get out of their way. They got to play their football. They got to put people in position to make plays. And a guy like Cameron Jordan and Demario Davis, I'm not hating on Demario Davis at all. I think he's had a good year. I don't think he's had as good of a year as the past few years. I think it would be really nice to see those guys step up and, as defensive leaders, really take over this game early. Offensively, I mean, we've talked about it enough. It is, I don't know if that's so much the Saints need to get out of the Saints' way as Pete Carmichael needs to get out of the Saints' way. I think you could easily say both. If we could get something similar in terms of play calling style to what we saw against Indianapolis, and if we could get a bounce back game out of Chris Olave would be great. I know, Alan, you had mentioned what he said to the media today.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously when you have an arrest like that and you have some other public scrutiny of what's happened on the field and that whole thing with Derek Carr that we talked about last week and how Carr said, I didn't direct my anger towards Olave. And then the NFL film stuff came out. And for a 21, 22-year-old kid, like that's a lot. And stuff you're probably not used to going through. It takes a real man to admit, like, hey, I'm not all here. But it'd be great to see a bounce back game there. There's definitely going to be opportunities for Olave. I believe Dennis Allen even came out and said that Olave is going to be a big part of what they do in the second half of the season. So it would be a fantastic game to get him a few easy catches, get him in some rhythm early, and then try to take the top off or try to draw up something where it's like, hey, we have a design play that's going to get you the ball in space, go make a play. I really do think this is a game of New Orleans Saints versus New Orleans Saints more than Chicago Bears. I don't want to underestimate an opponent. You never want to do that. But again, this is a team that when you're looking at it here on, Wednesday, November 1st, that this is a team the Saints should beat and should beat handedly.
Well, I said this. Jordy Hultberg asked me something similar on Tuesday afternoon with his segment. And I looked at it this way. Throughout the entire 25-game tenure of Dennis Allen, Pete Carmichael, we've seen the Saints take one step forward and then 2 or 3 steps back. Yeah. If they lose to this Bears team this weekend, that's not 2 or 3 steps back. That's 1 step forward, and you fall backwards down a flight of steps. Yeah. If this team has any designs whatsoever on being a contender, you have to not only Obviously, an ugly win is still a win. You take it and move on with your life. But yeah, if this team has any designs on being a legitimate contender, you take care of a team like the Chicago Bears very easily.
It's at home too.
Yes.
A place where opponents, and I love the description that Bucks receiver Chris Godwin gave for the Dome early in the season. He said it's like you go into this dark room, they lock the doors behind you, that crowd comes up, and you got to fight your way out of here. Thunderdome. I love that. Well, Thunderdome hasn't really been there because they have not played well at home. They played better on the road. This is almost like the Jim Mora teams, in a lot of ways, including being good at home on the road. So, this is a team. You got to take this team's lunch money. You got to take them out back and beat them up in front of your friends. Get that music playing. Get the players dancing on the sidelines. Get the crowd into it. I mean, when they play DMX on third down and you hear that guy, it's third down, then, y'all about to make me lose my mind up in here. I mean, you can see the whole dome bouncing.
Literally.
They did that against Atlanta, and I thought that roof was going to come off. I mean, they were so into it. When the crowd is like that, and then they put the players on the big screen, and they're playing Get Your Roll On, and you see Michael Thomas, and you see them all out there dancing. The crowd is dancing. They're into this, that everything is great about the game. But when you play like crap, you're getting penalties. It just sucks the air out of this stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a miserable place to play because the fans want to be a part of it, and it's not there. And that's what they had so often with Sean Payton and Drew Brees. So, this is a game. It's really important that they kick the Bears' butts early and then just keep kicking it for 60 minutes because that's what this crowd wants to see.
Amen.
Y'all
to
need
that.
to come to a Saints game. Y'all need to come to Saints Falcons game. It's a different animal. It really is.
Alan, I agree with you, but the last two Lauren and I came down for, they lost. So so I'll pass. I don't want to. Sean Williams always used to make fun of me, but I'm telling you, the Rose curse is real.
I don't know. I mean, you guys might have found something in that curse because the last two Monday night games you've been at, you've won, so you might just have to come down Monday night.
Right.
That might be the loophole of the curse. I haven't been to the Superdome for a game in so long.
It's
2014.
Wow.
Against the Ravens.
It
was the first home loss in a long time. Monday night. I think that was the last time I was in the Dome. And obviously you got to. I mean, obviously for me, like after 2014 up until this year. This is the first year I haven't done college football since then. So, it was really hard to make a trip out there when you're doing college football Saturday night. So, thankfully I've been able to cover the team from home, but it'd be nice to go back out. It'd really be nice to go back out and experience all that. You
need to find an excuse to cover LSU.
There you go.
If I can figure that out, that'd be great.
But it goes to the Saints on Sunday.
I don't know if I can. I don't know. Like if a Big South school can somehow figure out how to get out to LSU, or I guess it's Big South / Ohio Valley Conference this year. But if somebody could figure out how to get down and play LSU for money, that'd be great.
They just played Army 2 weeks ago, so you never know.
Right.
It's true. That is true. Well, Bob and I will be back on PSF this week to break down some more of the Chicago Bears, New Orleans Saints matchup. Again, Bob, got to figure that out because I'm a busy dude who's in another wedding this weekend. So, yeah, I know. Back-to-back weekends with weddings that I'm in. Friends that are watching, like good personal friends that might be watching, stop getting married. please.
You know,
It's
you know
hurting my
what?
wallet a lot.
You know what? I can give you firsthand advice on Brendan on how to avoid situations like that. Is just be like me and have no friends. So if you have no friends, you won't have to worry. You won't have to worry about getting invited to shit. You'll be good.
That is true. That is true. Now, these are my two best friends from high school. So, Ryan and Jess, congrats. It was great to be a part of it this weekend. Connor and Rosa, if you guys are watching or listening, really looking forward to this weekend down in Atlanta. But with that, I digress. Alan, there's a ton of people in here that love you and love what you guys do on Tuesdays with Under the Dome. So for the people that don't hang out with you on Tuesday nights, where can they find you and hang out with you on Tuesdays?
Yeah, we're on YouTube, Under the Dome. If you go on Facebook, we have all of the links posted in all the Saints groups, including Bayou Blitz, for our Tuesday night shows. It's we start roughly about 8:15, and I always promise I'm gonna get Bob out in an hour, but it never happens, and it's my fault because I start telling a story. Today is the Saints' birthday. I did not go into that story. That's a whole event. But yeah.
One thing, me not having any friends, stuff like that keeps happening. I won't have a wife either.
Oh, my wife used to love for me to go to bed after her because that way she could fall asleep before I start snoring. So anyway, but yeah, you can find me on Facebook. I do my good, bad, and ugly after every Saints game.
Love those.
You can find me on Twitter at 79 Saints. And I just kind of hang around, I pop into this show every so often. So I'm a little bit of everywhere. But thank you guys for having me on the show. I really appreciate this.
Oh, thank you for taking the time. I love when the three of us get together. You're awesome to talk to in person, even more so that I consider you. All jokes aside about friends, I do have two very good ones on here, folks. And if you don't follow Alan Ulrich and Brendan Boylan, you're missing out because you're getting not only two very good football minds, but two very good people into your lives.
Thank you, Bob. And you're a great one as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I couldn't come up with something snarky and quick enough because that was too nice. I'm not used to that on this show from Bob. I'm usually able to hit him back with something snarky and quick. But with that, Bob, where can everybody follow you on the World Wide Web?
Folks, thank you for tuning in, to our show tonight. Again, apologies, I didn't post the link through the Facebook groups. So if you folks are catching this on the replay, that's my fault, not Brandon's. It's my fault.
I take ownership. I'll be the mature one here too.
But you can follow me on social media: Facebook, Bob Rose, ROSE. Twitter at Bobby R2613. All of my works, I not only post on my personal pages, but also the Bayou Blitz Facebook group, Bayou Blitz Twitter page at Bayou Blitz Pod, and of course the Saints News Network at Saints News on Twitter and the SI.com team page. So make sure you're giving all of those places a follow. Alan mentioned the Under the Dome Facebook group as well. Any of your friends, family members, or just people you run into on the street, they want to know how to get into Saints chats or is kind of streamlined Saints news. Bayou Blitz group, Under the Dome group. We post all of our links. We post all of our shows on there. So that's the quickest and easiest way to get to us, folks.
And for myself, you can follow me all over the World Wide Web, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, PSF. You can follow me at BT Boylan, like Bob, or like I said earlier with Bob, we will be on PSF to preview the Saints and the Bears. Will have our pregame show on PSF as well. In the meantime, you can follow Alan. I got to get this right. There we go. You can follow Alan over with Under the Dome. You can follow him over on Facebook. You can follow Bob Rose, John Hendricks, Kyle T. Mosley, Ross Jackson with the Saints News Network as you prepare for the remainder of the week. Again, you can follow me at BT Boylan. You can follow the Bayou Blitz on Twitter at Bayou Blitz Pod. And we didn't do it today. We got a little carried away, but we do have this to give away for you YouTube folks as well. We will be doing that next week. So tune in for that. All you got to do is be here. Literally, if you're in here and you put something in the chat, you're going to be entered to win that white panel New Orleans Saints football. So until we see you again, whether it's here on the Bayou Blitz, whether it's on Under the Dome, or whether it's through the Saints chat room on PSF, we'll see you guys all soon. Who dat? Happy Saints birthday. Until we see you next time, find some peace, spread love, practice positivity. See you then.
Good night, all.
Go. Bye-bye.